Welcome everyone to Omaha Data Science Academy. This is SQL 101 class in the Business Intelligence mini degree program or business track. This is the second class in SQL 101, which is writing queries. I'm Jeremy Bergman, your instructor in Omaha Data Science Academy. So the first class we learned just about the basics of SQL. So some of that terminology to be familiar with, like what is a database, what is a database server, what type of data types can you use within a relational database. I really like comparing it to SQL, like how are relational databases, I really like comparing it to Excel, like how databases are like those tabular structures that you use and you store data and do calculations and so forth. So really to get you familiar with like, what is a database, how can you use it, what types of data it can hold and so forth. So this lecture is going to be all about writing queries. So now that you have all this data in the database, like how can you write code? So now you're programming using the SQL programming language. How can you write code to tell the database what information you want to get back that's stored within the database, or the database management system, what information you want to get that's stored in these tables? So a database management system is just, think of it as like a big computer. It knows how to read, it speaks the SQL programming language, and now you can write code to tell it what data to fetch for you. So just simply put, that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to do an intro on how to get started writing queries and telling the database relational database management system, specifically MySQL, how to go get data from the database. Okay. So I reviewed class one. It was like all that overview that I was talking about. So it's learning the terminology. What is a database? What does a SQL query look like? We just briefly introduced that. We'll just continue to expand on that in class. What is SQL? Why learn SQL? We just discussed that. What is the need for data manipulation and management? Data is not always in the form that you need it to be in for analysis or storing it and so forth, or visualization. So you can use the SQL programming language to get it in that format you need. And then what are things like a table? How are they structured? How do they store data? What type of data can you do or store in them? And then where can you learn more about SQL? All sorts of resources. No matter what type of learner you are, if you're a doer, if you're visual, there are all sorts of online examples, online videos. I'm personally a big fan of large language models and AI. I go to that. If I get stuck or I don't even know where to start sometimes, just asking it questions and using it as my partner or aid in learning or helping me solve problems is big. So tons of resources out there for you. Okay. So this class, we're writing SQL queries. I introduced that. So we'll learn about the different SQL clauses, the different parts that you need that are required, or different parts that you need within a SQL query to tell the relational database management system what to do. There are a number of different things that you can do with it. You can practice, or we'll practice using common aggregations and SQL functions. So aggregations are things that summarize the data that's captured in a column. So if you have something there like GPA for students, an aggregate function would be average GPA. You could do an average function and get the average GPA of all the students. It'll just go through that entire column and it'll aggregate it into one or sometimes more values, depending on how you specify it. You'll learn logical statements and operators. So things like and, or, greater than, less than, the not operator, not equal to, and so forth, how you can do comparisons to get data that you want. We'll use comments. We'll learn how to do that. We'll use that throughout the class too. I particularly like comments to denote like what the code does. So whether I'm doing SQL programming or regular programming, especially the more complicated things get, the more it just helps you keep track of, like, you look at it and you'd say, and what was I even doing here? What was the purpose of this? So using comments to help you like explain code, and then sometimes for debugging also. And then practice SQL by examples in MySQL Workbench. That's why we spent some extra time to get MySQL Workbench installed today, is because we'll do a ton of examples now out of it. And we'll do live code examples where you can get your hands on it and see exactly what things do. Okay, so hour one, we'll do this query and clauses. We'll try to move through it fairly fast. Hour two, we'll do SQL functions. This will probably now bleed into the 8 o'clock hour. Aggregate, control flow, statements, scalar functions. Aggregate is what we talked about, like averages. Case statements, so you can do if-then logic to see if data meets a condition, and we'll understand how that works. And then scalar functions is like multiplying a value like by 3. If you wanted to do a scalar function, you could multiply every value in the column by 3. So that'd be like a scalar function. Instead of aggregating it, it does each value individually. And then we'll try to do examples and exercises as much as possible here with what time we have left. And then we'll assign homework 1. Okay. So what is a query? A query is a request to SQL database for data to answer a question. Say when we query databases, we use a common language. That's what SQL is referred to. So it's been around a long time, just like SQL databases and relational databases. And you'll have a similar syntax no matter what type of database it is, whether it's MySQL database, it's an Oracle database, Microsoft database. So it's pretty standard language across relational database systems with maybe just small things between each different type. But we're going to focus on the MySQL query syntax because we're using the MySQL relational database server. So there are 2 parts of a MySQL query that are always required. You have the select and from. So what the select does is tell the database, what columns do I want out of a table? So you remember we talked in class 1 about how tables have rows and columns, and the columns are like the descriptive names for the values in the vertical parts of the table. So if you're in an Excel sheet, it would be like the name that you have at the top of your database table. So it tells the database, what columns do I want out of the database? And then from what table within the database. So you're pointing it to where the data is stored in the from statement, and then you're getting all the columns that you want out of it. And all queries, SQL queries, will have those 2 clauses no matter what. So you have to tell the database where to get it and what you want. There are other conditions that you will use all the time too, not necessarily required, but you will use them a ton with the SQL programming language and to get what you need out of the relational database. So some of these other things are the where clause. A where clause will be how you limit the number of rows that you get back with a query. Say there's a date field and it goes over multiple years, you could say where the date is greater than 1/1/2025. And then you'll only get the records or those rows that meet that criteria. So you can group by. Group bys are used with aggregate functions. So you can group by, say you wanted to do males and females, all the males and females in a group, or different genders, and you wanted the average age of each gender. You would say in your select the average age, and then you would group by gender. So then you get the average age by each one of the groups, the values within gender, and the average age of each one of those. So almost always when you're using some type of aggregate function, which we'll cover, you'd also use a group by with it. And then having is like a where clause for the group by. So after you group by, you could do a filter. You could do, if the gender has an average age of greater than 35, then include it in this query. You can order your results by a field or a column. So maybe you want to order all those genders by average age. You can do it descending or ascending, just like you could do in Excel. So you could go from oldest to youngest or youngest to oldest. And then you can limit the number of records. I often do this to check my queries. Sometimes a table will have tens of thousands of rows in it. And I could say, just show me the first 10 in the table to see what type of data there is in it. Or if you sort your results, maybe you would just want to get the top 10. So you would sort it and then say limited to 10 results. So you get the top 10 or bottom 10. So surprisingly enough, this comes close to everything that you need within a SQL query, all the different clauses. It's really powerful. You will show throughout the class, it gets a little more advanced, the ways that you can put tables together and queries together. But essentially, these are all the things that you can do to get data from query, or get the data that you need from a database table. Okay. So let's do our very first example. So our example of the world query, we want to obtain a list of countries within the continent of Asia. So this would be a good time to mention that all of the examples in the PowerPoints, let me change over to Slack here. All of the examples in the PowerPoints are within the SQL file that I put inside of Slack. Oh, just lost my cursor again. So if you download this example, this file, the example PowerPoint.SQL file, what you can do is now you'll have this down list file downloaded, and then you can put that right in my SQL Workbench. So you can drag it and drop it. I've already done that. And you will see code that's written like this. This contains all of the examples that we'll see in this class in the PowerPoint slides, so you can follow along and run it. So I downloaded it out of the SQL 101 channel.
Have the file, where did you drag and drop it on?
Yep. So I downloaded it.
Yeah, I did already.
And then it'll say open containing folder. And then it just took me to those pieces of code. It went to my downloads folder.
Where do you drag and drop it?
You can just drag this and drop it into my SQL Workbench. So you can just take this.
Which part of my SQL Workbench?
I just drop it right here in the middle. And it'll open itself up. Yours did? Oh, we're getting there. If you do, put this information in here, there's going to be a plus sign on your connection. And
Connection name.
What's that?
Connection name.
You could just put ODSA in for the connection. So we finally got there with the student. It
All
took a
of
while.
them or just that?
In the connection name, you can call it anything, but I've just been having students, let's call the connection name ODSA. So that's just like a label that you give to your connections to know what your connections are, but you can name it anything. Yes, so just showing.
I just don't know where to drag it. I'm not sure where you're dragging it. Is it under examples, as it say at the top?
I just drag it into the main part of the screen into the editor, and you'll see that little square.
So this is what mine looks like. This is what my screen looks like. Here.
Go over, let's see.
Is this the editor, what you're saying?
What's the workbench? Click out a SQL model. And click over this one.
Where?
And then drop it in this where you're writing code. You just clicked on like open the database model.
So where do I touch? Where do I move?
You can move that code into here now, into your code editor.
Just like drag it to here. To here.
Yeah, it looks like you already have it open.
Is that it?
Think so?
This is my computers.
If it doesn't, it could possibly be an old version of it. So if you download it and you drag it into that,
See, but mine doesn't look like yours. It's just like really small. And how come I want it to look like yours? See, I want it to look like yours.
you might try to change the resolution on your desktop. They might be like zoomed in. I think yours is still the same as mine, Celeste. It's just that yours is a lot more zoomed in on your laptop. So it looks like yours is like all scrunched together as opposed to mine. Mine's almost too small. If anybody has trouble seeing it, let me know. Yeah. Okay.
Now it's telling me no connection established and not connect server may not.
Okay. We'll do that at break. We'll get through some of this and then I'll take a look at it at break. Yeah. Okay, so the world query. Select continent, name is country, from world.country. So we're starting to recognize these different pieces of the SQL, these clauses within the SQL query. Remember the two that we always have to have. We have to always have a select and from. So now we're selecting what this is telling us. We'll just go through what this is telling us before we run it. So we do a from, and you see a world.country. So we're telling the database, database management system, go into the world database that you have in MySQL, and then find the country table or go to the country table. So it's your world database and your country table within the world database. And then once you're there, select the continent column. And then we have a column that's called name. It's actually the country. So we do name as country. So what this as is, it's just a keyword. It's just an alias. So we're changing the name column and then naming it as country. And instead of showing name in your results, you'll see country. So we're just giving it a name. And then we say where continent is equal to Asia. So we're limiting how many records that we're bringing in. So this world dot country table, it has countries all over the world, like North America, South America, even Antarctica and Australia. We just want it out of Asia. So we only want those records that are in there out of Asia.
So it doesn't matter if it's like uppercase or lowercase or any kind of case, it just has to have spaces in it, but like exactly where you write it is very important.
That inside the parentheses, or like where continent is equal to Asia.
Continent space equals space, one quote, Asia, lowercase.
So surprisingly, that is not case sensitive within MySQL. You guys will see here, we can do continent and it's lowercase Asia, and then it still brings back the result.
We do like title case, all caps, just everything.
Yep. And then you could order by the continent. So we only have Asia, but we ordered by Asia. And then we ordered by country second. And then we did that descending. So descending tells us we want to go in reverse alphabetical order from last down to first in our display. And then you can limit it to 10 rows. So instead of seeing all the countries in Asia, that just tells us, just give us the first 10 that you get back as information. So that's what this is doing. I think it helps we'll see all the steps here the first time we do it. So we can think about it's really good with SQL to think about when you write code, what each one of the steps are doing.
And so because at the end of this section we have a semicolon, does that mean that the query is over?
Yep, that ends a single query, as you see in the PowerPoint SQL file. We have each query separated by a comma, and that's going to tell the database that's the end of our query. That's the end of that query. It's the end of this query. So we separate each one of those.
Little country doesn't have the comma after it. I just remember what it says like.
In the PowerPoint slide?
No, in the my SQL slide.
In this one?
That's the real code, right?
This one right here, yeah.
Yeah. So can you dissect the parts of the query, because I'm not understanding why when you need a comma.
Okay. So commas in the select clause, they separate the columns that you're getting. So it says to not confuse it. Like if you just wrote continent, name, whatever, sometimes you'll write a whole bunch. It would treat it as one if you didn't like put commas in between it. It's like writing Omaha, comma, Nebraska. That's separating like city and state, except you're separating the columns that you want in the table. That's a good question. In others like order by, you're just telling I want to order it by continent first and then country second, and you put the comma in between the two.
Like keep going,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could have order by 10 of them if you wanted to.
But country and DEC description is all caps, but that doesn't matter.
I put it in caps because it's a keyword. So I put clauses and keywords as in caps to be able to more easily read it in SQL programming language. I just do that. It's just a standard that I mentioned at the end of the first class to make the code more readable. So you can tell the difference here between the column names, your table names, your database names. It won't be in caps, and then the keywords are in capital letters. So good question. And I was going to show you the different parts of this. So
keywords and capitals.
Yeah.
What is the importance of keywords?
Keywords tell the database what to do, more or less. You have like your main clauses.
Why are they more important?
Because it's like the directions that you're giving instead of, think about all of it as being important, but those keywords are like telling it what to do. More like the smaller things are saying like what columns to get or where to get it from, or like how much to limit the table by.
Okay. So when you say country DESC, that means descending.
Yeah, it's giving the database the command to order the database or to order the results in descending order, alphabetical order.
But no.
So it's like a command
to
the database.
Country and DESC.
Because you don't need it because DESC isn't a column name.
Okay.
Because the column list ends continent and country.
Okay.
And then descending is just a keyword at the end of it. So really you're using commas to separate either columns, or you could use it in from to separate tables. So if we'll see in this class, if you're selecting from multiple tables, you'll have commas in between.
And single quotes.
You could have them in there
single
too.
quotes denote
Strings.
Strings.
So with that Asia, it's just saying the quotes. Those are like text or strings or variable characters like we saw in the first class. So that's just like in Python when you put strings in quotes also. It's the same in this programming language. Okay. Oh yeah, I was going to go show an example of this query, how it works. So I just like to show the entire table first. Let me run. I need to log in. It looks like. So if you aren't logged in, hopefully you have your own connection set up. It might just say ODSA. That's fine. As your username, database server, and your username and password in it. Okay. So my file, I may have to drag that file back in here, but that's okay. Whenever you start a new session, clears out those files. If you've logged in and you've made it to this screen, if you want to see all the databases you have access to, you go down here and you select schemas. I see a lot more because I'm the administrator of the database. So I've created all these databases for students. What you should see is one with your first initial and last name. You should see a world database, which is the example that we're using. You should also see a database called Scalar. We'll use that for homeworks and more advanced examples. And you may also have a crypto database in there too. I'm not really going to use it. I'm not going to use it for this class, but it may be part of the permissions I give you. If you don't have that one, that's okay.
So did you get that SQL query out of Slack and move it over here?
Yep. I just moved it right into my editor inside of my SQL Workbench. Okay. So let me just select this table overall, world.country. It's in your world database.
Can you make that text bigger?
I know I do on the screen too. That's a challenge with having this resolution. I know my eyes are like,
Yeah, I just can't.
I need higher powered glasses. Yes. I know the zoom's around here somewhere. Here's a control shift plus sign. I cannot. What is the zoom command here? Yeah, well, I could ask Google or ChatGPT. Oh, then I killed it. What did I just do? I zoomed the whole screen. That's why. Let me see. The keyword is here. Let's see. MySQL Workbench zoom command. That search wasn't helpful at all. Give me a second. What the command is. At the bottom of the editor, you see a drop down labeled 100%. I don't see one down here anywhere. I always forget because I hardly ever zoom in. I just sit 3 inches away from my computer. I felt like it was something like that. Is it under view? I think, yes, it's helpful to zoom in here. If anybody finds a zoom in command for me before I do, go ahead and drop it into Slack. Edit.
It says you can edit your preferences like fonts and colors and edit preferences.
Inside of tools. Configuration. No, that's probably not
No,
it.
it's edit preferences.
Oh.
And then
SQL editor.
SQL editor.
Query.
Yeah.
SQL editor.
If you go down to fonts and colors,
Oh, down here. Consoles 10. Select your scheme. It's just like the font size. That didn't do anything. There should be like a Control Z. That didn't do it though. That deleted everything. That's undo. Like here, see if I can. That's ChatGPT. It's my better friend than Google is. How do I zoom in on my SQL Workbench editor? Hold Control on Mac and scroll up. And try doing that. Oh, that would be scrolling up on your mouse. You could plug in my mouse. That would probably be like the easiest. Zoom in, Control,
Maybe
plus or minus.
Maybe when you go to edit, preferences, fonts and colors, you have those be 10, 8, 10, 10. Maybe that has to be like
Yeah, I thought that was the font size. I changed one to 18, but
34.
I can make one. If I find my mouse, I can make this really simple. If I brought it with me.
all plus and minus is working on my laptop.
The plus and minus.
Yeah. Position my cursor inside the SQL editor. And then I use Control plus minus.
Oh, here. If I take my mouse pad and I zoom it in and out, that's much better. Okay, let's just do this. How's that? There we go. Plus then we can just focus on what we have here. So let's go. It didn't really help with this part, but we will do world.city or world.country. If you go over to this world.country table and you right click and you select your top 1,000, I think it helps to just see the table to start with. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I know I can barely see it and I'm standing up here. Hold on. I'm trying to zoom this part of it too. It doesn't seem to be working the same way. Maybe it would help if I moved it over to my laptop also. Okay. We need to do some zoom things on it. This screen's almost a little too big, isn't it? Or here's what I can do also. Give me 1 second. Can do the zoom on this monitor also. scale. Is that getting any better as far as being able to read the table? Maybe a little bit. Can I still make it a little bit bigger? How's 250% zoom? Let's try to. Much better for everyone online, probably too.
Yeah, I can see it.
Results grid. I kind of want to keep this bottom. The bottom part here is your output. So it tells me I selected star from world.country by just right-clicking on it. And now you can see the tables a lot better. It even helps me out. I have glasses and I'm standing right next to it. So we did country. We right-clicked on it. Just select top rows. So basically that's just a select star. So select star just says give me all the columns from world.country table. We have no limit on, or we limit it to just 1,000 records. And then we see all of the different country codes and names of the countries and what continents they're in, what region they're in that continent, surface areas, so forth. Like all the information you'd want to know, even local names and types of governments and stuff like that. Geographic and political type, GDP, life expectancy, that type of information for each country, world.country, and independence year and so forth. Okay, so let's go back to our query now that we have like the context of the whole table. So here is our query. Go back up to the top.
Oh, that's lovely.
Can't miss it. Okay, so we're going to go get continent and name. We're going to go get this continent. We're going to go get this field called name. It's like the long name of the country instead of the short code. We already know we're getting that from the world.country table. Where continent is equal to Europe. I think this is actually different than our example, but the same idea is that we will just get these rows. We'll get Bosnia and Herzegovina, Belarus. We won't get any of these other ones, but we'll get some more countries. As you scroll, you'll get Switzerland out of it, but you won't get African countries and so forth. Yes?
I know someone already asked about the case sensitive of the continent, but like if say the R was capitalized but everything else was lowercase, it wouldn't work, right? Like the R in Europe was capitalized but like everything else was lowercase, so it is case sensitive.
So like in continent, so just you're saying just an example of something that was capitalized that has an R?
Yeah, like Europe, or Africa.
Oh, if the R was capitalized in this?
Yeah, but everything was lowercase, like would it not work?
It would still work.
It
So let's do an example here. Where continent is equal to EUROPE. So that's just in our example. We just have R in the middle of it. And we run our query and it still works. It's called like case invariant. So if you're doing something like this, or it's a small string or text, it kind of it'll treat it like this. If you want, we'll learn about uppercase and lowercase functions.
Okay.
You could use those to be able to find uppercase or lowercase values within these and use them in the where clauses later. So you can use functions where basically you can do like case sensitive, but in general it's case invariant.
Okay, thank you.
So
when you type it, like it like auto fills in line, doesn't, is that just like something you have to select, or is that just experience? Like when you just put
like
it-
I was typing continent.
Where, yeah. but-
No, it should appear for the list. It tries to autocomplete. So this is called an IDE, Integrated Development Environment. This is specifically for SQL programming language. So you'll be able to see like all your databases, like the results of your runs, the results of your query.
With that drop down box right there, like that drop down box, like where you.
This drop-down box.
Your name says con, and then it shows it over.
Yeah, I'm just giving an example. So most IDEs will
My
have
computer doesn't do that.
like an autocomplete feature.
Yeah, mine doesn't have autocomplete. How do I do that?
I think by default this is turned on. I didn't install anything special to do it. I'm not sure why it wouldn't be doing it on yours. I have to dig into it. If it's a setting or something else. But usually, I don't know if it's doing it for everyone else, but usually in these things, it'll start the autocomplete because it's trying to guess what you want to do. So here it's like, do you want the column continent or do you want the contains function? And we'll learn more about contains, but it's trying to guess off the first few letters. But if you start to type in the whole thing, it's like continent's what you want. It's trying to just intelligently autocomplete for you. Yes.
Yeah, mine doesn't autocomplete either.
Oop, hold on. We have two people talking first. Does the continent need to be, or the field? No, I was just showing it works either way. So it's case invariant or case not sensitive, and you'll still get Europe. What I would do in something like this is like you can get the first character out of it, and then you could check if it's lowercase or uppercase. And you can use functions that would do the same. But with character values like this, it tries to be case invariant. Your code. Okay. So yeah, autocomplete, it usually tries to do that. So just showing you this, we'll go back to our example. It's kind of good that we're spending time on this first query to really understand it. So we know the whole table, world.country and everything that's in there. We're getting the continent and the name field out of country. And name is just like the names of the countries, the long names of them. So we say name as country, and as is just giving it an alias. It's a keyword, and we're renaming it in our query to country. And we'll see how that works in a second. We're getting only the rows where continent's equal to Europe. And then we want to order those results first by continent and then by country ascending. So it should go from A to Z. And it does that by default, but we're going to put ASC in there anyway. And limit it to the first 100 countries that you get out of Europe. Okay, so if you select this, you'll have two different lightning bolts up here to run your query. The one with the cursor on it, it says it runs everything below where your cursor is at. So it's going to run this query and then like all the other queries. In general, you want to just highlight everything, and then you select the regular lightning bolt. That regular lightning bolt says, execute the selected portion of the script or everything if there's no selection. So we've just selected this query. That's all we want to run. Hit the lightning bolt. And you see we have all the countries out of Europe ordered. We have continent and that name field renamed as country. And I put comments, all comments here. They start with hashtags in SQL. So the hashtag says what columns we get. And we renamed name to country. And then what schema.table to read from. Limiting those results. We sort all these countries in Europe from A to Z. And we limited it to 100. And we can see it returned 46 results for us. So I found 46 results in that database table where the continent is equal to Europe. And then we listed all those country names because we selected those columns in the select statement. Any questions about this and how we got that information
You have a little question.
from the original table?
Name has like quotes like to the side, and Europe has quotes straight up. Does that happen?
Yes, so this is an important point. Only in SQL, notice if I take away these, it turns blue. Blue is actually a reserved name within SQL. So like,
It's a reserved name?
yeah, so like clauses, you see all these things that are in blue.
Yeah. Okay.
It's actually like a reserved name or keyword in SQL. It's just to avoid confusion. You can put these backticks around the field name and it'll say, ignore it as a keyword, just as a column name. So it's just a little thing that I introduced early. Because it's confusing if you take those away and it's in blue and you're like, well, that's a keyword. Sometimes people name column names and it's like the same name as a keyword. Imagine if you named a column where in a table. Then the interpreter, it could get all confused about whether it's like a command or a field name. So I'm just putting it in text so that.
And then Europe is it straight text and straight?
Yeah, so that's a string.
String.
Yeah, so those are just in the straight apostrophes. Where these are like backticks. These are the ones that are next to like your number one or your tilde on your keyboard. Is it just to the left of it? Well, mine is, but maybe it might be different on your keyboard, depending on your layout. That's the only place that it will be. Yeah, so it's that character there instead of the straight apostrophe that you use for strings. So that's another good question. Any other questions how we went from this full table and we wrote a SQL query to direct the database what results we wanted out of that table with all of that stored data in it. So we didn't want all of it, we're just telling it exactly what we wanted. And now we're all programmers too. It's cool.
So, but then like when it says add ANC after country, then you don't put it before, you put it afterwards. Like it's just
Yeah, so well, you could do that on each one of these. You could do a descending. You could sort one field descending and the other ascending. Say if you had more than one continent and you wanted to go from Z to A for whatever reason, but within each one of those, I wanted to go A to Z, you could do that. It's like a two-way sort. Good questions. Nobody's ever asked these. Celeste. But good that you stop and ask questions. I'm completely open to that. Even if it's not even really slowing it down. It's making sure everybody understands. especially important here up front. Okay. People have asked about those backwards before, or the backticks. Okay, so that world query, we understand how that works. Common SQL clauses. You didn't get any results? I will come and check that out after we get to break. All right, so common SQL clauses. You see we have our clauses that tell the database what to do. Later in the class, we'll learn about joins. This is how you can bring the information from more than one table together on a common field and common values. Maybe you're bringing film. So in our Scalar database, what you'll have is like films, and then you have the genres for films. You can, with a join, you can join those two together so you can get information about both of those wherever there's a matching value. And we'll see more about that later, but that's one of the powers of it, is that you can blend data. You have where clauses, so we see all the operators that we can use. Mentioned it at the beginning of class, you have not. So maybe you want to say continent is not in Asia. You could use the not, and then you could use the in operator, and then you could say not in Asia. So it'd get you everything that's not in Asia. You could use and, so you could do more than one condition. You could say continents in Asia and population is over 500 million.
But the ASC, which looks like it was all caps as well, that's not there? It's not a clause?
It probably is, and I didn't put it in here.
Like ASC or DSC?
It's not a
It's not
a clause. It's more of like a sorting keyword. So I'm trying to show like clauses and operators with these, and then you have like all your greater than, less than. If you have null values, so if you have missing values or a few missing values, you could say where population is null, and it'll get you all of those records with missing values. There are actually some of those in the table.
population equals null?
Yeah, null. So null is like it doesn't have any information. It's not zero, but null is like there's no record of the value.
And would population be like in single quotes or no? 'Cause that's just.
Yeah, so I'll show you real quick. Example of null. Let me bring up the database. Oops. Go to country table. You'll have like these populations where you have GNP, gross national product, old. It's just missing that information. It actually says null in the table. Where GNP old, select, so now we're saying select all countries from world.country. I like putting these on separate lines just for style. Where GNP old, using the keyword is, and then using the keyword null. Here are all these countries that has a GNP old of null.
So
Where you can see their countries with life expectancy, it doesn't have any information because nobody lives there.
So is ASC maybe like what is it's called?
It's like a sorting operation, it's an operator, like a sorting operation.
So is DSC and ascending operators
Yeah.
rather than.
These are kind of like, I'm trying to show like logical operators
Okay.
in the where. That's more of like
There are
a,
other operators.
sorting operator to sort your data. I could probably put it in the slide. It's just like sort, have the ascending and descending there. And I also don't have top in here either, which is like a operator to tell you how many records to get back. So there's some other there are a few other operators. These are, I guess, to say shortly, these are some of your common SQL clauses. Defines the order of execution, which is the clauses.
Limit is not there either, so there's
And then, yes, so it's not comprehensive, it's like common. With the required operators to obtain data from a relational database, all these different operators. I would say joins are also clauses too, because it's telling the database, take these tables and bring them together. Where these are just like not and or logical operators. They do like one thing and something specific. Defines the order operation, the common main clauses, along with the required operators to obtain data. I think maybe in my notes I have a list. Maybe I don't have a list of all operators, but you could go find that on my SQL website or Google search of like all of the operators. I try not to overwhelm by putting all of them on there. Wouldn't even fit on there. Okay.
And clauses and operators are like the same.
Clauses are like the main things that define the order of execution. So like your from and where statements and your select.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Operators
Oftentimes I have some notes here. I don't have one that shows all the operators, but clauses and operators, but you could find it out there. Okay, where are we at in this lecture? Let's let me do just a little bit of a check here. Oh, it's not too bad. We'll be all right. We are getting towards the 8 o'clock hour. Let's see, but it's okay to go through this and ask questions. I have just a little more to cover. So we have SQL clauses, SQL operators. I kind of combined clauses. There's some operators in that clauses too. So SQL operators. That's where we left off. Okay. So an operator is a comparison or a mathematical symbol which is used to compare values, usually in the where or select clauses of a SQL query. Usually in a where clause the most, that's probably 90%, but we will see in select, we can use some logic to be able to filter the values we want. But anyway, generally used in those, the result of a comparison can be true, false, or unknown. Like if you compare two null values, that's like comparing a non-existence versus a non-existence, which would be an unknown. But almost always it'd be like some true or false. So you have a couple different operators. You have arithmetic. You have all these add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Those will take those two numbers or multiple numbers and do that operation on them, a mathematical operation. Definitely used a lot in select. If you can even add two columns that are similar types of numbers, you could add. Yeah, you could add. Yep, maybe. So there's a tax column and then there's a price column. You could add tax plus price and add two columns together. Yeah.
Because it is a table, which is like it's.
Yep. You can do comparisons. So we talked about equal, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to. Comparison, two field values, or even maybe a value versus a field. So you could get all countries where the life expectancy is greater than 60 years old. You could do a greater than 60 years old. And then you have the logical, you have and, between, exists, in. We just did one with in. did in, or, oh no, we didn't do in, we did is. So we did is null. So you could do and, it could be between two values. So you could say between 60 and 65, the life expectancy. You can have an exists.
You're pulling it from the table, which is like Excel,
Yep.
but it's.
Yep. Yeah, you're giving it some basic, kind of like some formulas, but some logic. Exists. So is the value null or not null? So you could say, does the value exist in a field? You can do in, which is a list of values. You could say is state. If you did, we're doing state table in the United States, you could say state in any IA MO, and maybe you're getting a city, so you could get the cities in those three state codes. And you could use in for multiple values. We'll cover like statement a little later on. It's like getting a substring or a small, or finding a small value within a field. So you use like a lot, but you would say is state like NEB and then a percent sign. So does it start with NEB? And that would give you Nebraska. So it's like trying to find little things within a string value to compare it to and return true or false.
What is like confusing is like when you're speaking about these things and like you're just using words and not writing it down. Like you're right, if you wrote down the string that you were talking about, that would might be easier to understand.
Yeah, we'll get through it. Not value, so it's, yeah, I'm giving examples as I go. Should I just get through it and go to an example? I don't have examples for all of these, so I'm trying to like explain cases where you might use it. Not or. All right, so clauses and operators, maybe a good slide to add is to show each one of those operators in action. All right, so clauses and operators, world query, obtain a list, and we'll just see some of them through action and then over class anyway, so maybe it's over explanation. All right, so obtain a list of countries within the continent of Asia. So similar query to what we had before, but we're using Asia instead. Think about some of these things that we're doing. We're using some logical operators, some comparison operators to be able to get our query result. And I'm going to move through that. So SQL functions, we'll cover this briefly, particularly aggregate functions. So what are SQL functions? They are built-in operators that perform calculations and return values. You can manipulate data without changing the original values. Essential for data analysis, transformation, and reporting. You can operate on single values, entire columns, or groups of data. So I'm going to have some examples here, and maybe this is a good way to do those other keywords, just to show some small things instead of explaining them. But what you can do is things like you can operate these functions on single values. You can do an uppercase on hello world, and the result becomes hello world. All right, so you can do other things like rounding a decimal, and this is just going, these are what's called scalar functions. You do that on each one of these. And you do 123, if you have this value 123.456, and you want to round it to the first decimal place, rounds to 123.5. You can find the total sales. Now we're doing an aggregate function because we're doing it over the entire column. So you aggregate the sales amount over the sales table. You'll find the total sales.
So when you say like, I understand select sale amount, and that's going to be, sale amount is going to be the name of the column.
Yep.
And then, so what is total sales? Like what is?
It's a label that we gave it because if you think it, if you're summarizing all the value of the rows in the table, you're getting the total sales over the entire table.
The total is not a command. It's just like, it looks like just what is it?
Yes, it's just a label that we're giving. We can use the as keyword
Does it,
to give our output a label.
okay, so then it's just like a new label.
Yep.
Okay, so. it
Or
doesn't-
like
it
if we
doesn't
use
add anything.
the count function, say if you have a customers table with a list of all your customers, you can count, and the star is like counting all the records. You can call that the total customer count or customer count from the customers table.
So when you say that in that third one, when you say select sum of the sale amount as total sales from sales, then it's going to display something like a column that has the title of it called total sales.
Yep, it'll just actually show like one value
Okay.
out of all of it. So if you had a big table, you selected one column, you aggregate it into a single value, and then the result will just return one value. That'd probably be good here is that you could add the output to each one of these.
So in SQLs, they're all wording and some numbers? Or they-
Yeah, I would
or
say
it's
that.
a SQL of numbers and words.
It's a combination of both to try to tell the database what to do. So this last one, maybe you're doing a date function. You can do things on dates too. So there's this function called date add. You could add, so what this is telling you, you're doing a keyword. You're saying number of days, let's add 30 days to the date, 2023, 1/15. And then it will return you the result, 2023, 2/14.
And when this is like date add and then there's no space between date add and the beginning of the parentheses, does that matter? Or because you seem to keep having that format as opposed to like when you have an equal, there's a space between before and after the equal, but there's no space after the, is that proper like form or does it matter?
Say that one more time.
So, okay, I know. So it says like date add, no space, beginning parentheses, but at the
Yeah.
end, there's a space after the end parentheses. Does that matter, that format?
Then right here.
Yeah, there's a space there.
So the parentheses, it's like a function,
And there's no space there.
right? It doesn't really matter that much if you have some blank space in there, like right here. But
And like because all of these you're doing upper, immediate first parentheses, and then afterwards on all of them you have a space, just formatting, just like. spaces.
because I just try to separate
Does it
there's
matter?
like no strict
Okay.
formatting. So in the first
So
lecture, we
spaces
talk
spaces
about,
spaces are not really critical.
yeah, standards. Most of them are just readability. Like in this class we did, SQL doesn't really have like a set standard. It usually goes organization by organization. I've just chose this from like a readability perspective in our class to do the function in the close parentheses and then put a space around the rest of it. So it's just really a way to, personally for me, to make it easier to read.
So I have an additional question.
Yeah.
In SQL and its existence of numbers and words, we're talking to the database to create what sequence?
The output that you want. The output that you want from all of the stored data that's in the SQL database. So it's good. Think of it like not just a programming language, but you're asking it a question based on the information that you want back from it. So you're like communicating with it, but you're using this programming language to do it. To say, like, here's exactly what information I want back from the countries out of all this information that you store in the continent table, in the countries table, inside the continent table. I didn't say that very well. All the countries you store inside the continent table.
In your list, basically.
Yeah.
I mean,
In general.
Because you don't want all the information, you just want some of it.
If you think of it from the data this class, when we were doing Tableau dashboards where we just had tables of information, we were summing things, we were aggregating things. Sometimes we were just, pulling across and getting counts of things, right? This is doing that, but
But in the sequence.
writing the code,
Oh.
but writing the code to do it.
It does. You write the code, and then the database does it in a
So if you
sequence.
remember on a few of our dashboards, we went into like the little editor thing and we actually put
Yes.
words in
Words
there, code
Yes,
in there.
yes.
So this is doing all of it with
In
code.
one sequence.
Yes.
Okay,
in
that's what I was
one
trying to
set
get
of
my brain
instructions.
to. Okay.
Yep.
And you're not gonna get the pretty pictures out of it, so whereas in Tableau, we can quickly turn it into a chart or a
Yeah,
graph or
oftentimes
whatever.
what you'll do is write a SQL query, and then for the data that you want in Tableau, and then import it into Tableau. So you write the query first, you get the data that you want, and then you can do everything within Tableau, like visualize
In
it,
a
or,
combination of one
Yep.
unit.
Okay, so I have a question.
instead of just loading everything into Tableau.
I have a question. So all the tables that are in the back end, we're gonna like presume that it's a good, like it's a viable database and that there's not like poor constructs or poor, whatever.
In general or in this class? In general, it happens all the time.
Okay, there are bad tables.
Yeah.
Okay.
And bad values in tables. We'll do one class on cleaning data, which is exactly that. So there are a number of constructs for relational databases, which is why people use these. But you have like missing values. Maybe it's for a good reason, or you have systems that record bad values and put them in there for whatever reason. It's up to you as a data analyst to determine, like, identify those and then determine, like, what do we do with these, or why did they happen, and what do we do with these?
But the other function that you would work closely with to maybe be the database administrator? To, like,
Potentially, you're often developers who wrote the logic that create the data in the database. So you might have a front end or a system and some process that puts this data in the database. So really this class is like, it's really focused from being a data analyst perspective. I had before a lecture on building databases and schemas and stuff like that, but you can also, we'll learn about that. Now I teach data engineering, you could learn about that in data engineering. So you can focus on skills in this class just for data analysts. That's one of the ways I'm trying to.
How it interacts with other parts of the world, like.
Yeah, the databases that interact with systems.
Systems.
And you design these databases to capture transactions or capture information that you can use and potentially analyze. Not always the purpose of, that's kind of for two different purposes, and not always the purpose of the system that's capturing it, but that's a whole nother discussion. That's a data engineering discussion. Okay. We are at 8:10, okay. But we are, I believe, nearing the end of this lecture. Okay, so we just learned about functions. You can do them on single values, or you can do them on the entire columns, like summaries. You can do them on, columns or numeric values, strings, and so forth. All right. And then just for example, instead of this being a single value, you could do that on an entire date column. Maybe this is date add. Maybe that's the date of when an NFL game happened or something, and you want to add 30 dates to it. So you'd have like NFL game date instead of a value, and then you could use that to change all the values in a
And then could
table.
you, like, when you're selecting,
in a query.
when you're selecting the data and you're saying as the blah, 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 could you change the format of that?
The format of that date?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. We'll learn about formatting functions. I don't know if we do it in this. I don't think we do it in this lecture, but you can format the output and everything into different date formats. Yep. Maybe we do actually. All right. Types of SQL functions.
Do you send this data anywhere, or you just like,
What's that?
do you send this data anywhere, or that's just like you just like look at it?
As a data analyst, you're usually sending it to someone
Yeah.
potentially, or loading it into another tool like Tableau
Yeah, just Tableau.
or Python.
You load it into something like Python or
Yeah, you're creating a report or a visual out of it for some audience.
Do we do that, or is it something else?
What's that?
Do we create reports here, or is that like another?
We should consider doing that in this
Yeah,
class.
the super, that's what your work asks for.
The homeworks kind of do that. You ask questions and then you produce
Okay,
the
so-
results.
So like what you can do for your employers, like create reports or forms.
Sometimes you're putting this data, taking it and putting it in Excel, and you create an Excel report out of it. It's like getting the data you need for whatever data product you're creating for them, if it's a dashboard or report.
This data, like you make reports and put it in Excel or make forms.
What do I personally do? It could be in any number of things. You could do analysis, you could do financial analysis out of it. Really, that's why SQL's are valuable, because you're like, I'm doing a financial analysis. I know the data that I want. I'm like, give me the financials out of this table for these customers. And then I take that data and then do whatever I need with it. Instead of like just getting everything.
Do you mix that with Python or just?
You can with Python, yeah. If it's already stored in a relational database tables, then you could write SQL on it.
Oh, okay.
Or, I mean,
Oh, I see.
not to get too complicated, you can kind of do it in Python too.
Okay.
But yes, so we have different types of functions. I explained Scalar. They return a single value based on an input. They just work on values in a table one by one, and they just change those values. So you can make everything in a field upper or lowercase. You can round values like we see, or you could do an absolute value. And there are a lot more scalar functions than that. That's just an example. Absolute value would be changing the negative to the positive value of it. We're changing a positive to a positive absolute value of a number. And there are a ton of those that you can do. Aggregate functions, they operate on a set of rows and return a single value. You have like sums, counts, averages, mins, and maxes. Off the top of my head, you could have like medians and stuff like that, but that's 95%, 99% of what you use. You have date and time functions to manipulate dates and times like we saw on the last slide. You can add to the date. You can take the difference of two dates. Particularly, you may do the difference between date created and the current date. Like how long ago was it created? You can get a date part. So if you have a field that's like date and time combined, you could just get the date part or the time part. That's what those functions are. String functions, you could get substrings, so just part of the string, and you want just the first 4 characters. You can replace values. Trim would be as if you have blank spaces on the end of like a name. You could trim those off the front and the end of it. Sometimes things are stored with extra spaces. You can concatenate 2 fields together, so like a first name and last name. And then you could use other mathematical functions. I don't use those a ton, but you never know when you need a logarithm, I guess. So SQL functions, you can split these into aggregate functions. And then your scalar functions are single row functions. And your single row functions are split into numeric. You can round single values or take them to a power. You can do string functions, uppercase, lowercase, get the length, so forth. And then your date functions. You can get the date, the day, the month, the year. What is the current date now? Month name and day name. There are lots of those are just examples. Usually databases will be this is where they differ the most, is that they'll have different functions. But often they all have different types of dates and mins and maxes and summary functions. They all have a similar set. They're just a little bit different depending on if you're using IBM DB2 or SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server, or MySQL. Always things that you could look up, but pretty common uses in there. Those are the different types. All right, let me see how we are tracking here. We are right near the end of it. It's 8:17. Okay, so we'll finish up with a couple examples. Okay, and then we'll take a quick break. And the last hour, we'll do some examples and assign homework. Okay, or the last 30 minutes. All right, aggregate function. So what is the world population by continent? So we're starting, so always think of it, it's like, what's the question you want to ask? Like, what data do you want back from the database? It's like, I want the world population by continent. So how can we start to put those together? Obviously, I always think of like, what table do I want it from first? So we'll go to world.country because we want the population by continent, and the country table has like continent information in it with all the countries inside. Okay, so we'll start with that table, and we want to select the continent. So you get the different continent names. And we want to sum the population. We want the total population by continent. And since we have fields that we aren't summarizing in the select and we're using an aggregate function, we also need to put that continent in the group by statement. So we have to group the sum. So we're summing all those countries within the Asia group, within the Africa group, within Europe group, North America, and so forth. So it's telling it to do these sums of all the countries within these continents. And those are all the different values you have for continents in that table. And then we have having sum with the population as 0. So this is like your where clause when you do a group by. It always comes after the summarization. And say we wanted to take out Antarctica. We don't want any countries with or continents with 0 population. So we could say having sum of population greater than 0. So that's going to get rid of Antarctica, even though I show it here just for illustration. And then we order by continent descending. So alphabetical order from A down to Z, but we have Oceania as a continent. I forgot what that involves, but Asia, Africa, Europe, North America, South America. I'm guessing that's like Pacific Ocean countries. All right. So let's take a look at this query. You can go. Actually, we could probably find a couple of examples here, like Polynesia instantly comes to mind. So this is like our query that we ran over the entire table. And we'll take out where gene field is null. So everything in the world.country table, just to give you a view of the type of data that we're selecting. So we want to summarize the population by continent. So we have all these population values, and then we can sum them by each one of these groups. It's a group by. So we're summing all of the countries that are under North America. So we start to do things like we're going to sum this value, and then wherever else it's North America. And then Asia, you would do sum this value, and so forth. And then you group by continent, and then you get the total sums by each one of these. So in our example, let's see where we're at here. We should be, here we go, this continent. We got the continent, the population we're grouping by. And then after the group by, we are limiting it to just all continents that have population greater than 0. And then we want to order that output in descending order. from A to Z. You can select that, hit the lightning bolt, and that gives you that result. I must have done this in descending order. So anyway, we have the exam,
But it's not in descending order either.
let's see, A. It's not, is it?
No.
Interesting. Order by continent. Why would that be? Did I forget? I didn't forget to select it. Did I? I have to think about why that didn't order by continent.
It doesn't have to do with the sum, does it?
Usually you would, so in SQL, it does it this by order. So it goes from your select, your group by, your having, and it should order everything last, unless I'm not thinking about that correctly. Unless it actually does the having last. I have to think about this query, why it just did that. It depends on so underneath the scenes, the database will do things in a certain order. And I have to think about why that output did that. I'll get back to everyone on it.
Is that a MySQL thing, or is it like all databases do that?
Taking out the having clause does not change it just adds an article in, but it doesn't put them in order.
Yeah, because let's see. No, I would think that this would work on all relational database systems. Unless MySQL is doing, I don't know why that would surprise me. Like it hasn't worked in other, or if it's done that in other classes. And that it didn't work there. It's like it's not ordering it. Is it because I need the order clause? I don't think I can do it that way. Because you always order by last.
Even when I take it, completely simplify it, just say select distinct continent from world.country order by continent, it doesn't put them in alphabetical order. There's got to be something
in that query that's doing it. Okay, I'll take a look at it and let everyone know.
I know what the answer is.
What's that?
If you put lower where the order by is, lower, like the lower function around continent, it works.
So that's a case where it's actually case sensitive for.
Good hit, and I wonder why.
I think it must be, man.
Nice debugging.
Could ask Claude. Here, let's get a good reason for it. It changes all. Yeah, go ahead.
It takes the case of all the letters and the name of the continent and makes it all lowercase. And that the reason why that matters.
Because South America and North America? Because America?
Well, so the ASCII code. So ASCII is what the letters that we use in our alphabet. The computer translates those as something called ASCII. The ASCII code for a capital A is different than the ASCII code for a lowercase a. So that's got to be why.
Yeah.
And so when you standardize it and make it lowercase across the board.
It should still, with the capitals, they all have capital in the first letter. So it should still order correctly unless ASCII is like all out of sorts with capital letters.
That's what it
Should-
is.
Could be, but not without. Okay. I'm asking Claude.
Yeah, the codes are different. So it's sorting by the numeric code. An uppercase A is a 65. A lowercase a is a 97. So
Yeah, but since they all start with capital letters, though, why wouldn't it sort by the ASCII codes for the capital letters? So I'm getting, okay, so without lower, SQL sorts based on, I should show everyone this output. Okay. Due to case-sensitive collation and SQL sorting.
So it's saying, uppercase letters have different sort values than lowercase.
They do.
So that's why my question was, if they begin with uppercase, should they end with uppercase?
Those values?
Yes.
No, because they're continent names, so they just have like nouns, like the first letter is capitals. So this is probably with lower, uppercase E becomes first.
So, but it's our A words that are interspersed in there. So you're dealing with an uppercase A, and then it's got to alphabetize on the lowercase letters next. And so uppercase AS is ahead of uppercase EU, which is ahead of uppercase NO, but then uppercase A, lowercase f
And
comes
that's why I give you a
next.
Yeah.
And
case.
that's why the mixed
The
case
case
is
in
giving you
intensive
a problem.
sort. Because you have a mixture of upper and lower case, and that will roll off.
I think it's always good as a data analyst to just convert things to like all lowercase or all uppercase
That's general.
to avoid
I got a bit of a
like
problem yesterday.
issues like that.
Be kept lowercase and no mixture of upper and lower.
Yeah, so it works
Yeah,
in
or
your,
convert it all to upper. Either way, either use the
But
upper
keep it the
function or the
same,
lower
or-
function.
but it works in
Right.
your where clause anyway because it just ignores it, but it doesn't ignore it when it's in your sort.
And that depends on which system you're working in, whether
Yeah.
it works in your where clause or not. Because like I'm doing SQL and Snowflake.
They're like different encodings and everything.
It is case sensitive in the where clauses too. So I definitely should have known that we needed to standardize case.
It's like all the times I've run this thing, I didn't, just not even paid attention to that. All right,
I saw
that would
that
do it.
question.
Okay. Aggregate functions. We have a control flow function. So this is the first time we're introducing like case statements. So case statements in programs, it's like a multiple if then statement. So like this would say the very first thing it checks is the continent in Asia, Africa, or Europe, or Oceania. So we're doing like hemispheres here. So we will then, if it is in one of those, give it the label Eastern. But if it's in the second one is, if it doesn't meet that first criteria, check the second criteria. So if the continent, the first 7 is in America, then it's Western because you have South America and North America. We're going to put those both in the Western Hemisphere. Else, in the final one, what I sometimes like to do is like put an oops value in there. So if it goes through everything and it wasn't supposed to, maybe there'd be an oops at the end. But in this case, it would be Antarctica. So what this does, if you have the value Antarctica, because sometimes you make a mistake, like the criteria doesn't always catch everything. But in this case, what happens with Antarctica is you have this case where continent is this. If you're comparing Antarctica, it doesn't fall in the eastern because it's just those continents. You go to the second criteria. In the right, 7 is America. Antarctica doesn't fall under that either.
Why did you say like when right and then continent, comma 7?
I'm just an example. So you have like North America and South America. It's just an illustration of we took the right 7 characters of a string.
So instead of saying when continent is in this list, he's saying when the rightmost 7 characters of the field continent
Yep.
are America.
So when you go through all these values, whenever you get the continent of North America or South America, it'll be true. And then we give it the label Western Hemisphere. But for Antarctica, it doesn't match the first one. It doesn't match the second one. Then you have the else condition. So for this case, we just say if it doesn't match either one of these, just keep whatever the continent is for that record. That's why I said I like to put it just whatever is in the value of that record in continent, it just maintains that value. So it's Antarctica.
So if the value is in Asia, Africa, Europe, or Oceania, in the field continent, we're gonna rename that to Eastern. If we look at the field continent and the rightmost 7 characters are America, we're gonna rename it Western. Else, anything else that's in continent, just leave it.
Yep.
Exactly as it appears in the field.
Why does and as
I don't need to hear that.
and as
It's not gonna-
And or else. So if it doesn't meet any of the conditions, you set an else condition. The case statement always ends with a else and an end statement.
and this hemisphere.
And then, so the end ends our case statement.
Yep.
And then it's saying, represent that as this label hemisphere.
Oh,
And we
Because
call that
then
field.
down below,
hemisphere
we're
using
gonna
that large
group
egg.
by hemisphere. So
Yep.
we're setting up 3 different groupings.
So what this
Calling those 3 groupings hemispheres,
Oh.
Western, Eastern, and Antarctica.
Yep.
And our case statement between the word case and the word in is the logic that tells it what belongs
Yep.
in each hemisphere.
correct. So now we're like putting multiple things together in this one, and then introducing case statement, which allows us to transform that continent value into hemisphere value, and then summarized by those hemisphere values.
So
Are they
again,
doing
very
it
much
maybe-
like we were doing in this tableau when we were going into that little box and we were making things labeled different ways, right, to sum them up. It's the same thing, that's your computer code.
And actually, that's
On the 7, but the 7 is Central America.
Yeah, so Central America, North America, South America, you're going to the right of the
Right.
field, all the way to the right, count back 7 letters.
Yep, I
A,
should have.
C,
I didn't mention that.
I, R, E, M, A. Going backwards from the right, 7 letters.
Oh, you counting back the hemisphere.
Continent,
I mean, the continent.
the word.
So this
the
we
word
kept
continent.
So
not just North and South America, but Central America. It also captures that too.
The 7 wasn't for Central.
But you count back 7 times,
Starting on the
Yep.
right.
starting on the
and
right.
counting back.
So yeah, just drawing it.
So at the end of the letter, you're counting back 7 spaces.
Yes,
Basically,
and we're saying, Take that
Right.
substring, take that piece of the field and see if it's equal to America.
So we're telling it we want continent field to take a look at all the values in the continent field. Count backwards 7. So if you have the value Central America, you would go 1, counting backwards from the right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it gets all of that right there.
Anybody who's in that north, south, central, and maybe.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and then I said,
And if you've got Australia in there, it's AIL, like, oh, that's not America. Those right side characters.
so then I set it to America, and since it's Central America, and I got those, and it compares true to America, then we keep it in that group.
Is there any, you're treating it as a string, is there anything like, right? Is there anything to indicate that we're going into string country?
You would just know that by the values of the field values.
The data type.
One thing that you can do, a quick look at that.
How would you know that?
You can do a couple of things, but one quick way is that you could either, I often just query like the top 10 and see what values are in it, but you can also go in here to country and then columns and then continent. And I was thinking down below, it would tell you the data type here. But it doesn't tell me.
Not in this particular database.
Well, this is actually called an enumeration, which is technically a database, but these are all the exact values, and you can see that it's string values. So it's a certain type of data type, but you can see this is an entire list, and they're Asia, Europe, North America, Africa, Oceania,
Which are continents.
Antarctica, North. Yep. So since all of these are string values, we can use the string functions on them.
So where I'm lost at is, when do you count back the 7 spaces?
Whenever, here, let's do the full table example.
Once you create your gap.
Let me get let's do a few examples here. So it's just going to go row by row on continent, and it starts from the A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is a match. Label that. It matches America, and then label that as Western Hemisphere. Create a field that puts that in the Western Hemisphere group.
I didn't get again about the part where it says, okay, we don't have, like, why does it say continent and as hemisphere and then not like and as hemisphere? I don't get that.
So the as says everything you've figured out between case and end,
Okay.
all these things you've figured out, name that new
Oh.
column.
The as is just that label that we've been using.
Okay.
If you don't put it there, it's just not going to give it a name.
Oh.
So we give that.
Yeah, if you didn't have
Field
the
the
as
name we
hemisphere,
created is
your right
hemisphere.
column of your result
Oh,
just
it's
would
end,
have a
it's
label at the
end,
top.
it's end, and then it's saying as hemisphere, so it could be another line, it's another, it's not like end as, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's just
correct.
into the
Yep.
hemisphere of the continents.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's what's making that second column have the label
Right
at the
there.
top of
Let's
it.
see the label. here.
Correct.
So it says end as. If you didn't put anything in there, that hemisphere label would not be there.
Yeah, that as is what gives it its label.
Actually,
As.
could actually show you what it does real quick if you don't put as. Where's our If you don't put the as value here, if you don't put hemisphere, different databases handle it differently, but in MySQL, it's actually just going to show you that function name. Oops, and I broke it by doing that. Why did I break it?
Jeremy, this is
Yeah.
this is Simone. I know that in other types of databases, you can't actually put the like you can't name something and then use it in a group by or like an order by. You have to actually
Correct.
put the entire case when.
Yep. So in MySQL, you can group it by this label.
Okay.
And by taking out that label, it broke this query. So that's something specific to MySQL, is that you can label a field and then group by that field. You can't do that in all relational database systems. So what you would do in the other database systems is that instead of being able to use that label or alias, you'd have to copy the entire field here. And you would group by that entire logic. So instead of grouping by hemisphere, you group by that entire case statement. And now we should be able to run it. And you see, if you don't give it a label, what MySQL will do is just put all of that logic into it. That is a shortcut of MySQL, is that you can use a label to group by instead of having to put, if you do a case statement, putting all the logic into it, which is not available in most relational database systems. So that was a good point. All right, we were running out of time. So what I tell everybody is that after our discussion, I also want to revise the homework just a little bit before I hand it out. So I will do that tomorrow and hand it out to the class. So we won't cover that, but we will get through this lecture. And then I have some additional practice exercises for us to do. All right, so scalar function instead of an aggregate function, and we just learned control flow function for the first time by using a case statement. So you can use this step-by-step logic to create the values that you want inside a field. And now scalar, so this goes each record by each record and then does the calculation. So you could ask a question. This would be comparing 2 dates together. Let's get back to that. Okay, so scalar function. So what countries claimed independence after 1991? So this query compares two values. So you have a name of the country. We put that in backticks as a reserve word. And so that MySQL knows that it's a field. We give it a label country. So we have that nice formatting. We have an independence year. And independence year in that table is a 4-digit number. And what you can do is then cast, you do a year. So we just want the year out of this date. For the first time, we're using a cast function. So that's where somebody mentioned, can you turn this date into a certain format? You can turn this into just a generic date format and then get the year out of it from the world.country table where the independence year is greater than 1991. So it's converting the string to a date. You're casting it. It's called a cast statement to convert the date type. and then you're using the year function to get the 4-digit date out of it. It's saying where independence year is greater than or equal to 1991. And then sort it by independence year descending. So it doesn't have a problem doing that because it's a numeric value and it's sorting a numeric field from newest to oldest. So let's go ahead and run this query. Where we always show the base query first. So you see there's all these independence years. Some of them have null values because maybe they aren't independent or it's just not recorded for whatever reason. So we're trying to find all of these countries in this table where the independence date is greater than 1991. So Czech Republic would be one of those as part of the old Soviet bloc. That should show up in our results if we write the query correctly. So we can run this query where independence year is greater than 1991. We're converting that string value using the cast function into a date. And then you could see Czech Republic was there since we're looking, we created a field called start year that we're comparing it against. And then that country had an independence year greater than or equal to 1991. So you see Czech Republic is in those results, along with all the other countries that meet that criteria in the table. And that down here, you can see in the results, it returned 23 results. Any questions about that? Query. So we've used function writing queries and using functions and clauses in a number of different ways in this class. So let's recap what we learned. Okay, so we learned the common SQL clauses. SQL clauses are the main clauses that tell the database management system how to operate. Those are like your from, what table to get it from, your select clause, which tells you what fields to get, what columns to get out of a table. It's your where statements that limit your number of rows that you return. And then if you're using functions, like aggregate functions, you're using group bys, you're possibly using a having, and I'd call order a clause too, because it's an operation that's done at the end. It tells the database to order the results in a certain manner. So we learned some common aggregate and scalar functions both. We even learned control flow logic with case statement. We can debug or explain code and write documentation using the hashtag in your SQL files in MySQL. Different databases will also have different characters that you can use, but you can use that # inside of MySQL to comment your code. And you'll see that in examples. It's a good way of just explaining and describing what your code's doing. I try to do it as much as I can in this class so everyone can learn what each step is doing. And then what are the various function types? So we talked about aggregate functions. Those are your grouping values, and scalar functions are your changing values. And we learned about case statement and even one that changes date values and data types or date values. So that would be a scalar function since it applies to each value within a table. Additional resources. MySQL tutorial or w3schools.org, I think, are just two of the best because they have interactive examples. If you want to go through these more, it'll give you full descriptions of these different functions. I usually just list the most popular, but let me bring this up. to get more practice, you can read through these. It froze on me. And I remind myself clicking more doesn't help, but it gives you an explanation of it, additional information, and then gives you some practical examples. So if you're grouping by this name, you can group by A, B, and C, and you can see the sums over the A's and the B and the C. Really practical examples. Some more functions that you can play with in MySQL. This is like more of the broader list of them that we don't talk about, that we didn't talk about in this lecture. And just more practical examples, and you can even try it out. You could write queries in here and execute them and so forth, which I think is pretty neat. And the other one I like is w3schools.org. W3 Schools is just for, it's not w3schools.org. w3schools.com. And it's just programming in general. You can get all these examples, but go to SQL. I believe behind the scenes, they use MySQL, but they try to be as general as possible. Yep. And then you can do all these examples on the databases that they have. So syntax, they talk a little bit about syntax, like select, aggregate functions. And then another, we haven't learned, this is just a tip of the iceberg really, but you can insert data into tables, update it, delete it, and so forth. That's like managing the data. I think the TV had enough of me.
So are we gonna let you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of learn a lot. We learn a lot in 3 weeks. That's just a start. My TV what happened to the TV? Did it get overextended? But that's it in the next lecture. It's like a whole maze of wires here. My TV went out, but that's okay.
It's 8:55.
8:55. Yeah, I did want to finish up with taking a look at where you can get a few examples. So let me share my laptop, desktop. I don't know what did happen to this thing. The TV just gave out. It's had enough. Now that's plugged in there. Is it still plugged into the wall? Oh, it must have been kind of a loose connection. Okay. Hold on one second while I help everybody out, direct you to some homework exercises. Usually I'd cover these in class, but no, we asked a lot of questions and it was good. So it's not a problem. Let me share my second screen. Entire screen. Share my second screen, okay. Share. And now this thing's all crazy. But inside of Slack, there is this other exercise or this other PowerPoint that has writing queries additional exercises. And there are a number of these exercises that we'd usually cover at the end of the class. This used to be an old homework assignment. But if you download this, it gives you the basic syntax. And we're doing a couple things here. Say you wanted to write a query that was just a list of zip codes, or I want a list of every country in Oregon, or what time zones does Nebraska observe. Here's the type of query that you would write. And it's just natural language. Like then you would think about, well, how can I get this information from the database? Or if you want to aggregate query, here's what the outline of it would be. And you'd ask questions like, what is the total population in every state? What is the average population density in every country? And then I provide answers to each one of these. So if you wanted to get all the zip codes in the state of Iowa, there's a zip code. And there each one of the queries would look like. So I just notice it says Sam McQuiston, but we don't have that database. So US Zip's part of world database.
That's all in Slack.
Yeah. Let me see if I could bring this up in Workbench. I don't think US Zips is part of the world database. So it's a database that I don't have loaded, but I could also load that table and point everybody to it so that they could run those queries.
Unless you run all of them,
Yeah.
All 8.
Yep. It hold on. I can't get my SQL Workbench back on the main screen. This thing just went completely haywire, but I don't believe that you have the tables for that one, so I'm going to have to point everybody to the tables that you can use. And also at the end of this, there are also some practice exercises at the end of our current lecture. So I would say I don't have the solutions for those either. Okay, I need to help. I need to figure it out for everyone, and figure out the homework too. So maybe we might just do these as homework. Let me do this and do this for everybody tomorrow. And I think I'll probably just turn this into homework into the homework assignment.
For Wednesday.
We will do it for due next Monday.
You
That could
mentioned
be a
last
week
time
to
you
do
said
it.
quizzes. Are we still doing that?
We'll do a quiz tomorrow or on Wednesday over lectures 1 and 2. So we're a little thrown off since we had that first lecture on Monday. Usually I would do it on each Monday, but we'll do quizzes on Wednesdays covering the 2 lectures before it. So we'll have one on this Thursday or Wednesday covering lecture 1 and 2.
A quiz.
Yeah. It's not really like a pop quiz though. It's just kind of it's really to like remember what you learned in the previous 2 lessons. They're usually, people do pretty well. They do really well on them.
So our lessons are on Slack or are they?
These lessons will be on YouTube. I can point everybody to those. And then I'll also give everybody a download link. What's that?
Put the link on Slack.
Yeah, I'll put the link on Slack. So there's an Omaha Data Science Academy YouTube channel. These are out there on YouTube. I just need to provide links to everybody so that they can do it in Slack. I could actually show one how to do that real quick too. If you go youtube.com, it's at Omaha Data Science Academy 8281. And it actually has our current lecture. We're live with our current lecture until we stop it. Oof. But lecture 1 should also, or lecture 1 is spring 2024. There's a lecture 1 from spring 2024 for you. Yeah, I need to get the first lecture uploaded to it and then provide everyone the link. But in the meantime, I dropped links from that 2024 class into Slack, which is like the same. I do that same lecture every year. So it'd be same content. Just get everyone the current version that we did on Wednesday too. You're welcome. It's just starting the journey. Celeste, if you want to come in, it's like good to have you and ask questions and everything.
I know,
So
it might be better to come in person and spend extra time.
think about it.
You know, I think I need to. I don't want to dive in.
See, that's it for tonight. I owe the class some stuff plus updates in the LMS and Learn Worlds to be able to point everyone there. You can get all your class content there instead of dropping it into Slack.
Okay, remember, I'm still having issues.
All right, yeah, we didn't. Yeah, let me help you out. We didn't. I was hoping to get a chance to stop, but we kind of got in the flow of asking questions. Better to ask questions now than later on, and then we're like, oh, I'm lost from a couple classes ago because it moves really fast. So happy to answer questions. What happened? That looks like it worked.
So this is what it's saying here. Nothing's wrong with the connection, it's there.
Oh, okay. Go back to that home. At the top. See you, Mary.
See you later.
Good night.
See you Wednesday. And hit your wrench sign. So go click there on ADSA. So this is where we'll enter the information that's up there. So under host name, you want to type that long thing of characters.
OSB.
Yeah, starting with OSD. ODSA.
Look, take this out.
Yeah, take that out.
So when I get this started, I just go to the one that looks like the shark, right? I go here.
Yeah.
It kept disconnecting me, so when I would go my SQL program, it kept saying that I was
That's
not
weird.
connected to the database. So,
Let me see if it's something I can fix while you're sitting here. Gotta try it real quick.
I'm trying to get in there.
Yep, so you're good there. Just now hit test connection down at the bottom right. Oh, and probably hosting, did we take it in? Let me see. MySQL, database.azure. Oh, okay, now try test connection. Yeah, let's make sure, oh, that's good. Azure has a URL. That
I didn't put it in password.
That's okay. It'll ask you once you hit test connection. What's that say? Unable to connect ODSA. Okay, say it real quick. That's why I get really focus is set. odsa.mysql.database.azure.com or 3306. ODSA. Something as small as that. No, it's like you'll start writing this code and it'll be like the smallest thing like that. And you just, if you're like new, it takes like 30 minutes to find it. All right, then password 1, we can say that's the whole. That worked. Now you have this connection all set up here. You can just click that.
And then will you help me with my Slack? Because there's
And then you get to your data, it's just units. Okay. I wonder if I need to invite you
you do because it said it was
to
extended.
this. Let me do mine and see if I can invite you to. If I can invite you to our Slack channel.
There I am.
Should I just try? This one's right, this gmail.com.
Yes. But I like my Yahoo. Can you send it to the Yahoo?
Yeah, I could probably do that instead.
I had to create that for Python because she said she couldn't send anything to Yahoo.
Yeah, we'll have to, let's see if it works. We can try it. Yeah, unless, yeah, I'm channel manager, so I should be able to add you. Add people. Okay, here's where I can send it. What's your?
It's Tammy.Wright 59. There it is. It just popped up. There it is, right? It should put it all in.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Put it all in. 5931 at myyahoo.com. Tammy.Wright 5931.
It says you're already in the channel. So can you log into Slack using that Yahoo account?
Sign in with my email.
Yeah.
I just tried to do that and it sent me.
And mine, it won't connect to the database. I believe in mine, because I have written that, program.
Mhm.
And it kept giving me out saying I was not connected, and so now I can't even, I don't know where it's at.
Try to restart your computer and then try to run it
See,
again.
now that's my answer to it, so.
Send this info.
I used to do like laptop and desktop supporting. That's my answer to most. Let me see how I can resend this invite. How can I resend a Slack channel invite as a channel administrator? I just do this all by voice now. You can't specify. What you can do is resend or extend a workplace. Okay. From the desktop, click your workspace name. Okay. For on tools and settings. The pendings tab.
What's the project we're working on?
Oh, in Slack. The Slack project.
Uh-huh.
It says SQL-101. No wonder. Wonder if I can remove you and re-add you. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I removed you and now I'm going to re-add you. Anyone you add will be able to see it. Okay. I re-added you. Not sure if that will send you a new invite to your Yahoo account or not. Activity. YouTube. Invite as a member. Tammy, what was your
I will,
Yahoo account?
It's Tammy.Wright5931 at
myyahoo.com. Does that look right? Oh, it says you're already in that workspace.
It looks like it
Did it?
just a blank screen right now.
Let's say completely remove you from that channel. Other Tammy did that work.
so mine, it did, but what I had shipped is gone. But it did the Europe thing, but it didn't do what's the first one you did? But it didn't do it properly, so.
Yeah, and this thing, it's probably not going to autosave. That autosave frequently.
Okay. So that's, so, well, wait, it was something I was disconnected, so
You should be connected. It
I'm
looks like
not
you're
connected now, but it wasn't, so when I wrote it and hit enter and hit this, it came back and said not connected, not connected, not connected.
Oh, I wonder. Yeah.
And so then Mary did something and then it took it, but it didn't bring back the information that we didn't come back to what he wrote it. So that meant I had something wrong up in my program.
Yeah.
So we were gonna work on that, and I was like, well, I can't get connected. Then I lost connection again, so every time I'm just gonna have to go over here and save it. Save as a script or save.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Save script.
And that way I'll know that even if I have to go out and come back in, I'll have something.
Yeah.
I'm not today.
Yeah.
Prepare for this quiz, 'cause I'm
Each
like-
one of these classes, it's a lot.
Yeah,
It kinda,
You learn a lot, and it's like
it's
a
different
full.
from Tableau,
yeah, it's
Way
different, but it's the same.
thing.
I can see why we had Tableau first,
Uh-huh.
to introduce us to the concept.
Yeah, and getting your
Right.
hands on data.
Okay, Jeremy, so
Yeah.
I have no other, I wanted you to look at this, I am in, Slack.
Yeah.
It's just myself. Is there anything else that I should do before I leave?
Well, that's good. So you're in Data Science Academy now? And then you're in the SQL 101 channel. Just type hi and see if I get it. I don't see the rest of the channel in there, so I'm wondering. Or like all the messages. I don't know that that's the same channel. Let me. It's both called the same. Mine has a lock on it though, and I have to.
It says hashtag. Oh.
It says that you're in there. Let me see. Try setting it here. It did say, yeah, I joined or.
Joined by invitation.
We will email you a magic code for the password to sign in.
Okay.
It says that you're, ODSA.
No,
I
this
think
is-
that's a different ODSA though. Try in your email to see if you have that.
And it's gonna say.
Yeah. And once you do that, I think we'll see this channel that you're invited to. Oh, the invite has expired. Okay, well, let me see if like now it like notifies me or lets me do that. I know, it's so they have the good stuff there too. I'm starting to eat all of it.
I'm a Reese's. I love Reese's. I have to watch my sugar. I ate so much in Louisiana.
That's
Fried food.
Might doing the same right now too.
Fried food, and all the stuff I wasn't supposed to eat. My body is can't afford that. I love Reese's. Reese's and, one of my other favorites is, Mr. Goodwill.
I don't see like anywhere where I can re-invite you. Let's see if I can.
And I didn't even get a chance to rest. I had to go to work tomorrow. I had the day off. I said I could do it in class. I didn't want to try to go to work and be rushed. you take the time to yourself. Yes, and I still didn't get a chance.
And I think I'll have to sit and figure out how I can resend that invite to you.
How do you sign out
It's
of
gonna take a
Slack?
little bit.
I mean, it just won't. No, it just never acts right since I tried to take Python when I first started. It never acts right. And initially I got in.
Can I
and was
resend?
kicked out.
These instructions weren't very good either. Yeah, it's not really that good at that. How do I resend?
It says Slack needs your permission to enable notifications.
Click your workspace name.
My workspace name.
Oh, yeah, it's me. I'm reading it out
My
loud.
apologies.
No, I'm thinking hard. I always start talking to myself. Workspace name, tools, and settings.
Also,
Workspace settings. That didn't work. Yeah, he's terrible doing that. Okay. Click your workspace name to open the menu.
he's like, I'll just send it to you. He's like, ah. So we
Hover over
correspond
tools and
tonight.
settings.
Okay. And I sent my homework to him that way. I'll try and say hi to you.
It's settings. Click menu.
I said, I ate so much Louisiana, I should be full for a week. That's that good.
That sounds pretty good.
And then today, I went and met with this lady and I didn't eat breakfast. I just drank some water, I didn't eat breakfast, and my stomach went.
Left-hand sidebar.
I
I cannot find this.
I said, I apologize, I didn't eat breakfast this morning, but you would think that I wouldn't have to eat again on all that food I ate. It ended up oysters, for the first time, alligator.
Oh.
And it was fried alligator.
So I've had alligator. There used to be a place downtown called Jazz. And it was New Orleans place. Oh,
Yeah.
they had the best food. That's the first time I had alligator.
Oh my goodness, and yeah, that was the first time was, 2 days ago. And it almost reminded me, it was seasoned very well too, by the way. It almost reminded me of Carnival.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Buzzard Billy's in Lincoln has it too. You have to go to like a Cajun place like that. That's it.
That's local too.
I didn't know that.
It's a favorite.
Oh, they have this, oh my gosh, this crawfish. Well, I love sugar etouffee. They had this, or crawfish etouffee, but they had Jazz, they had this, spicy dressing with shrimp. Oh, and I don't like spicy food. I woke up at like 2:00 in the morning to go get it. I said, that's sad, cause I'm like, this was, I've never tried anything else on the. I'm like, I know what they got, I know what I like, it was delicious. All right, y'all have a good one.
You too.
See you. Thank you.
Bye,
for
Tammy.
all your help.
See you on Wednesday.
I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna give
Yeah,
it my
take a
all.
good
Okay.
break and be ready. This is where I needed to go. Here, this is what I'm gonna do. Tammy, I got
Can you
a
just correspond
invite
with me
link.
that email, if it's a big issue, I'm, just asking.
Here we go. Here's what I'll do. I'll take that email. I got an invite link. We'll see if this works. It was Tammy.Wright.
Tammy.Wright
5931 at yahoo.
my
Yahoo.com. That's right.
because apparently there's another Tammy Wright, so I had to be a little creative.
Yeah. Surprisingly, there's like a few Jeremy Bergmans too. Somebody with enough people, or be like a few people with their name.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of Tammy.
Yeah, I would guess. Okay, so I just sent that to your email. See if you get a link and that works.
Okay. I just received it.
Did that link work, or you got the link?
I did. I forgot it's not download. Shucks. I haven't updated anything, and so it's gonna download on my phone. We'll see. But I doubt it. I do have another phone.
Otherwise, I'm not sure how to get you in there. Can you get email from your laptop?
From my Yahoo, I can get a Gmail from that T-Way.
If you can, you might be able to get in if
It looks like here.
Okay. T-Way 1.
No, I'm T-Way 5.
Hold on.
Yes, I'm tired.
Me too.
It's tway5.right@gmail.com.
Okay. Tway5.right@gmail.com.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I should receive an invite.
It's coming your way.
I actually created this email just for class. But I know that, there it is, I just received it.
Let's see if the link works, if you look at it that way. And then from your,
Now, what I do? Continue with email.
yeah. Try using that Gmail address.
I could use the other one because it comes on my phone.
Usually you could. I think I have Slack on my phone too.